3 packages arrived today. One of these is not anime, but let's open it up to find it. It looks like this is anime. So then this one is the one that's not anime. Well, look. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 5. Don't know what to think about it. It's been a while since I've watched Season 4. Do I even remember what happened? I'm not sure. But I try to keep up on this series at a minimum. Gosh, I didn't even watch the Adventure Time that I have. Is there another Adventure Time season? I check every month, I think. There we go. Hard to get underneath these. Alright. Why don't we begin with these since they're on the top. It's a Strawberry Marshmallow, aka Ichigo Mashimato, the complete OVA series. This time, DVD and Blu-ray versions. You may recall I got the Blu-ray version of the TV series, which contained the same content as what I had gotten on DVD, so I didn't get its companion DVD release, but since these OVAs haven't been released here on those DVDs, this is, for all intents and purposes, new. Although I do wonder, an old Genie on release, they were dubbed before. This one is Japanese with English subtitles only, Region A. It's good to know. It's kind of what I expected, but you always want to check just in case. You never know. And then we got the DVD version, which has that in it. 2 discs. And I think this will probably be an excuse to rewatch the first series. I do have it on Blu-ray, and I did probably put it in a pile of things over there. Let's see. Only 1 disc here. And it's just the same first disc in the 2. Makes sense. Next up, we've got a Belladonna of Sadness, which this is a Blu-ray case. I'm having trouble reading. I know that... Is she naked? I don't know. It looks kind of like yes and no. I don't know much about what the series is about. And there's a sticker on top. Okay, well, the sticker barely came off in one piece, but there we go. On the inside, I think that looks very Blu-ray, but see, I don't even really know what this series is, and it looks interesting. Wi-Fi Productions, so it sounds like it's maybe Japanese for sure. Because sometimes non-Japanese animation ends up in the anime section, which is only really a problem just because sometimes people know that oh, it's saying stuff here. US theatrical trailer. Original. I don't know what to make of it. But I got it because I think it showed up on an anime database. A good librarian like a good shepherd, which is a Blu-ray DVD release of Funimation. Although it's, let's see, let's just start opening it up. So, I was thinking on the back it looked like it's Japanese with English subtitles only. Which is not common for Funimation, but it is still something that they've done a little bit. Japanese with English subtitles, same thing. Oh, the Blu-ray special features have an English dub, but live life 1 page at a time. don't know what to make of this. So these felt like they spun differently, so they're probably the Blu-rays. It's kind of hard to see the little text there. Blu-ray 1, DVD 2. I see, so it has dark red versus a dark blue version of that character, which makes me think she may be more important than that girl. Unless this isn't... No, this says the complete series. Next up we've got DVD and Blu-ray versions of Rin-ne, I guess. Episodes 1 to 13. You can tell from the character design, but as it says up there, it's Rumiko Takahashi, Ranma and Inuyasha, and Urusei Yatsura, and probably other really good things. She makes interesting universes. I think Kakaishi, did she do that? Don't know. It's certainly a curious looking series. I'm not sure what to make of it. Who released this? Because, oh look, it even says right there, Inuyasha and Ranma. I probably didn't mention Ranma. Sentai, Region A, Japanese with English subtitles only. I think that's in line with our expectations. Got our DVD version, which of course is the one we want to have open so we can compare discard. Because they tend to be pretty shared. Although in this case, disc 1 of the Blu-ray is disc 2 of the DVD, and it looks like disc 2 of the Blu-ray is disc 3 of the DVD, which I think is not very common for a Sentai release, but it works, especially since disc 1 of the DVD release is just the front covers artwork. Next up we've got Lucky Star, the complete series on Blu-ray and DVD. Obviously, since I already have it on DVD, the reason I purchased this, Regions A and B. The reasons I purchased this is because it's the Blu-ray release for Lucky Star, here in the States at least. You could have imported the Japanese version if you wanted to, and I have to say that they tend to have pretty nice looking releases. But I guess we'll probably look at that in a little more detail when the Haruhi Suzumiya one comes out. So there's, first you got that back card, and you got DVDs 1, 2, 3, 4, and DVD 5 has extras, so there's 4 and 5 have extras. Then we've got Blu-rays. We've got 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 24 plus extras, and of course it's a fairly invertible cover. Again, you know, it'll probably be more interesting when the Melancholy Haruhi Suzumiya Blu-ray comes out, I think next month maybe, or was it the month after? Then I can compare that to the Japanese release. Can't do that for Lucky Star, of course, because I don't have the Japanese release. So, we got another Pokemon XY Kalos Quest DVD 1, another Pokemon edition. It's always nice that this series is continuing to come out. So I'm not expecting much. Pancham, I think, and then the Pumpkin Ghost, and the French Poodle thing. Straightforward. We also have Yatterman Nigh, the complete series, which I'm surprised to find her front and center. I mean, it's not like I've seen much imagery of her, but I got the impression that this was she was maybe a popular side character, but this makes it look like she's actually the main character, so I don't know what to make of that. I released this Funimation on DVD. Funimation is releasing a lot of more experimental DVD, aren't they? Or anime. Like, if this was DVD and if I didn't miss a Blu-ray version, then this is probably subtitled only. In fact, this is consistent with their playing around with it. 300 minutes, Japanese stereo, English subtitles. So, what I'd come to expect. Inside is fairly straightforward. Interesting. Of course, if it doesn't sound like I'm saying I'm done, it's because I'm not. Let's see. You know, I almost forgot about this, but shout out to JJ Moore, who has actually been commenting on a lot of my videos for a long time, for sure. I at least recognize his name, but Sound Euphonium Collector's Edition 2 also arrived from a Pony Canyon release. I think if I put that up there, and if I take this, put it up here, I'll be able to put this all together when I'm finished looking to it. So you can see it's already been opened. It was I decided this was a high priority watch because I could, it arrived yesterday and I could watch it before today's update. I guess going underneath the extras first, we've got some of the, some imagery of the, I don't know, the band, I guess. As you can see under here, underneath the disc, there's no CD, which is a common feature in many Pony Canyon releases, but this one it sounded like they had trouble getting the music. Pretty standard insert with some nice character information and artwork. And this one, I guess, no, there we go. It has at least two. Oh geez, it's a little provocative. We've got two bigger than normal inserts. Alright, now getting this back in here. The way I did it last night was this way. As long as I'm careful and I don't. And that's pretty much, that's not all the anime, but the other thing is the hentai release, Kanojox, Kanojox. Warning, this is absolutely not for children. It's a bit more risque, but this one is a lot easier to show. Inside has nipples, so I'm not going to do that. But, hey, a new anime hentai release. And it's also worth noting that I think next month is a Blu-ray release for this. Not a lot of hentai Blu-ray releases. If you count the Blu-ray release for Kite, which is the edited to a non-hentai version, just kind of, I guess they call that racy when it's kind of more provocative, but not overtly sexual, I guess. I don't know. Beyond that, there's Urotsuki Doji, so more options. Anyways, this week's anime DVD collection update. So, obviously last week I was in the middle of watching something else, and I did finish that, but I'll cover that just after this. Parasite Part 2 is kind of my highest priority watch, because the first half was really great, and it stopped at a place where it didn't feel like it was degrading in terms of its interesting content, and I have to say it was a pretty good second half. It's definitely not as good as the first half, because sometimes, you know, really starting series can get good, but probably most notably, the second half of this series avoided what I feel to be a common degenerating point for a lot of anime, in which they come up with this neat idea, but then, of course, once enough of the government is kind of in the middle of things, and, you know, the first half kind of lets you know, even if the government doesn't have a complete picture, they know something's wrong and they're trying to do something about it. And usually in a lot of shows, when the government tries to do something, it kind of reaches a boring point. I think like Akame Got Killed kind of felt like maybe some of that could have been. I mean, there's the individual program, and then there's, okay, now there's soldiers all over the place, and it's, I don't know, somehow it loses something really valuable. But in Parasite, when that point happens, you expect it to happen, because it's a very shonen show that's trying to be, I guess, edgy, real-lifey, sort of stuff. So that kind of thing is it should be inevitable, and I don't think it's too spoiler to say that that sort of thing happens. But when it does happen, surprisingly, the series stays interesting because, well, I guess thinking too much about the because wouldn't work, but it worked out pretty well, and a lot of stuff worked out well, and resolution, I thought it resolved pretty well. Maybe it's hard to think what I actually think of the very last episode, because maybe it tied up a couple more loose ends, but it also felt maybe a little forced. I'm not sure. Yeah, you probably know what I mean, and it's not necessarily bad in that regard. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I really don't like it when a series forces edginess onto us, the viewer, instead of having it be something that naturally happens. And I guess that one kind of felt like it compared to a lot of the other stuff. So overall, I thought it was a very enjoyable series. I don't know if it's very different from the manga. Obviously, I could see how different it is from the first volume because it came with this DVD, but it's not a very high priority watch, or read rather, for me at the moment, because I guess I've got, well, you can see this pile here. I want to try and get through this pile slightly more faster if I can help it. And the other thing, I think I probably hinted at this last time, but it was kind of a point that the series wanted to get back to about how illogical it is. You know, it kind of had weird biological assumptions about, oh, well, if something wasn't human, it wasn't feeling it, wouldn't understand why things would operate in groups at all. And, you know, it's kind of stupid, because if you're going from a logical perspective, I mean, even our own bodies are a collection of single-celled cells working together to create the whole... The anime tries to go with the ant and queen colony stuff, or the ants and bees colonies, and pondering them, and the truth of the matter is it ignores the fact that even the parasites themselves are collections of they're multi-celled organisms as it is. So it's not quite as different as reading The Things. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by that, or maybe you have a slight hypothesis, here's what I actually mean. So, obviously, if you're thinking about Parasite, you have to go back to John Carpenter's The Thing, because Parasite is about taking some of that concept, and instead of dealing with the fear of the item it represents, it wants to play with the concept, and so it changes the rules slightly differently in Parasite, and I guess I'm not going to say exactly what I mean, but it means they get to play with it a bit more. And so then this one can kind of deal with the way different life forms think, but it's, again, kind of weak in that the anime itself, it's sort of like the problem of Hachiman in the first season of what's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but he talks about how... Sorry about that, the camera ran out of space. I forgot to clear space before. Anyways, Hachiman, he wants to be a bear because he considers a bear a standalone thing because groups are inherently weak, and that seems to be a common problem shared, a common mindset shared between that and like this show, where it kind of ignores, again, the fact that we are multi-celled organisms, and even the parasites themselves are multi-celled organisms. They are a collection working together for a singular purpose. And, even at the macro level, that makes sense. I don't know. And, but, all that. It's... I guess the point is to try and have different mindsets looking at it, but it's not quite as interesting in that regard as The Things. Now, if you don't know what I mean by that, this is a partial reference to John Carpenter's The Thing, which is definitely an inspiration for this, right? Or maybe I was just saying that. And the point I was trying to come up with was there's a short story called The Things, which is the same movie, The Thing, 1980, early 1980s, like 83 or 84, except told from the point of view of the thing and how it thinks of things differently. And that one's actually kind of interesting because it's this super wants to kill everything organism versus just a really different mindset, a different kind of life. And I don't think the parasites and Parasite are so different that they wouldn't be able to understand that sort of stuff, which basically means that it's the creators of the anime who kind of got stuck. Anyways, I've talked about this series a lot, enough that I ran out of space on my camera, even though I really wouldn't have had enough for the rest of the stuff. And so, of course, I did not abandon Select or Spread WeCross, although I'm trying to remember what I thought about it. There has been quite a bit of anime, I guess. I've been doing a good job watching it. I'll go into details of that. Why, maybe. But I thought it was kind of neat where it was going, what it was revealing, what it was... kind of the thinking behind the show, I guess. It was neat. It was a neat end to the second season. It wasn't... I didn't think it was super spectacular or awesome. Something about it is... not perfect, but it's a neat mixture of different elements that you've probably seen used in other animes, including ones that are trope subverters, maybe even deconstructors. This one I don't think is exactly deconstructing, but it was interesting. After that, I kind of decided, I think, like I mentioned before, I want to tackle this pile, so... especially since, I went and ripped some of the stuff that I hadn't ripped before, and I was like, I really like the way this one looks. I'm kind of curious. And I have to say that it actually starts out surprisingly strong. If you're not familiar with the story of the Satori, because there's some anime that kind of deal with this, and you may or may not have picked up that certain characters or things are called Satori, but... my understanding is that in Japanese folklore, you have this concept called the yokai, which you can kind of think of like a monster or ghost, kind of iffy. There's a lot of your traditional Japanese monsters, like the lady with the stretchy neck, or with another face behind her hair, or something like that. The Yukiona, which is the snow woman who... gets people lost, I guess. And you also have things such as umbrellas, which have that are 100 years old, and so they kind of gain a life of their own. So it's not necessarily a monster, it's not necessarily human, it's just a kind of weirdest concept, a kind of gathering of creatures. This is assuming I'm understanding it correctly, because a lot of my understanding in that regard comes from Project Toho, and that also is to do with the Satori, because the backstory of the Satori is it's a yokai that has the unique ability to read the minds of other entities, that's humans and other yokai. And this is kind of notable because yokai kind of tends, in many stories, especially in Japanese anime, they tend to get along with each other, even though there can be a little variety there, and sometimes they have warring factions because they're kind of portrayed as less civilized. But the Satori is, because it can read minds, is not liked by humans or other yokai. So they tend to be isolated and socially... I don't know. I'm blanking on the word I really want to use there. And Project Toho, of course, has this with the character named Satori. She ends up moving down into hell, or old hell, because there's not a lot of people there, and she has a lot of pets, because a lot of animals tend to not care, even if some of the animals are yokai, because they turned into yokai, but I guess they're kind of bird brains, cat brains, or something. I don't know. And there's more to that that's interesting in Project Toho, but the relevance here is that's a common theme, because I've also seen Satoris come up, and it tends to be about how they are socially ostracized for being able to read minds. People just don't want to be around them. Yokai just don't want to be around them. And this series is kind of based on that original idea, where that blonde-haired girl in the middle is born with the ability to read minds, and she doesn't even realize it. And a lot of people, they don't think, they try and justify it as something else, but it hurts. The people around her just don't like it, and it's interesting because it's the same story as the Satori, except that she's literally a human girl. She's not a yokai who's pretending to be human or anything like that. She's just a human who's experiencing what we would expect a yokai, Satori in particular, to experience growing through life. And it's combined with a very common element in a lot of anime that you might have seen. In fact, Sound Euphonium actually was dealing with something sort of like this. The rumor milling of that causes people to become isolated because people aren't sure what to think about this or that. In fact, I guess also Selector Spread We Cross was also dealing with this. That one I don't want to go into more detail about because they don't reveal that sort of stuff in the first episode. But you know, that's like a common theme there, and a part of me thinks that if that's not a common behavior in Japan, then it's a common way Japan thinks about themselves. Sort of like how Americans think, America, fuck yeah, we're the greatest country in the world, even though we got plenty of problems and plenty of bullshit, and maybe we're not all that great. I don't know. It's one of those things where it can be really hard to tell because, you know, there's this cultural expectation to think of things that way when in fact maybe they're not. And the same way in Japan where maybe they think they are meaner to each other than they actually are, or maybe it's an actual phenomenon. It's something you can just observe as being in anime in general, and it's the theme here, I guess, is that she kind of understands and accepts this because even her own family is kind of subject to the same sorts of problems. And you know, it's a really strong thing because, I mean, maybe not everybody watching this would feel the same, but for someone like me who likes to speak their thoughts, I can't help but think that I actually wouldn't give a damn. Because, you know, that's the kind of thing you need. You need people who are willing to speak their thoughts. And in a lot of shows which have these rumor mill things going on that cause people to become isolated, you usually do have something where you have a group of people who speak their thoughts, and people who are like, I'm tired of being these shallow cunts, like these other shallow fucks or whatever. You know, just they want to be open. They're tired of pretending in order to be like each other. Now, this doesn't directly suggest that sort of stuff. It kind of is there as an element towards, you know, that's the thing you need. And I guess I'm getting way off track because I was also going to say that, you know, for me, the reason a story like that works out so well is because, again, I don't think I actually care. Now, maybe I'm mistaken, and maybe this is something this show could have explored, but, you know, you kind of, because of that, I have a lot of sympathy for her situation. I wanted her to know everything's going to be okay. You know, it's just sympathy for the main characters that sometimes happen. And in this case, the show sets up a really strong element of that where I think some people could, a lot of people could probably fall in that. Because who knows, I'm probably being really stupid thinking that I'd be okay, you know, if it actually happened. Who knows what would actually happen. And maybe knowing that I might not know means that it wouldn't be a problem because, but yeah, it's a stupid thought. But as you can see, that means that a lot of that stuff, a lot of those thoughts, that's just the beginning of this series, and that actually gives it a really strong start. So if it's not rated well, which I think it's rated okay to good, I think the problem is that there's an extreme contrast between this really thought-provoking, easy to get invested in setup, and it resolves a couple of things, and then it's kind of normal, except that sometimes they have that, oh, she can read people's mind for a running gag that, I don't know if I would say it's definitely effective, but it's there, and it's it's kind of a very sharp contrast, and it kind of brings on some of these thought-provoking elements for the end. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't. There's a feeling that it's not quite right, and I think most of that comes down to she's too well adjusted, I guess, once all this stuff happens. And I'm not completely convinced that she's actually reading minds. It's like, you know, like I've said this before, a lot of anime like to play with this joke of, oh, he thinks she looks attractive, he's a pervert.
when that's kind of really stupid because, you know, guys are very visually inclined, and of course they're going to think, oh, a girl looks pretty, and half the time the girls themselves accidentally tossed their clothes off and ran out into the hallway. And he's the pervert because they're streaking. There's always that element, and the thing is, with the person who can read minds, you would kind of expect they wouldn't have this detached from reality view about that sort of stuff. And it's a joke they play with because it's a normal joke, so it's kind of like a normal situational comedy. Again, with this thing where occasionally she can read his mind and they try to just make a running gag out of it. But in reality, I would think that, first of all, she wouldn't be as well adjusted as this show would have, and that would actually make it a really neat to watch show because it would be about healing as opposed to healing and then, let's enjoy our time, and then bring something up for the finale. Instead, it just could have been like a healing experience the whole time, I guess, and didn't need to resort to these jokes. I don't know if there's anybody to blame for any of that, because, again, it didn't make it a bad series, but it did make a very sharp contrast between, holy shit, this is a really great setup, I really want to know what's going to happen, versus, they're just hanging out. I don't know. So, The Troubled Life of Miss Katora. Interesting show. And, of course, I got my friend that I watched Naruto Shippuden with. We got to a kind of late start, and that late start was on Saturday. Usually, we watch it on Friday, and we bleed over any extra stuff we might watch on Saturday, but he had prior plans, which are, he knows well in advance that, oh yeah, I pre-ordered Naruto Shippuden DVD set 27. It's coming out, blah, 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 next month. So he usually knows well in advance, and sometimes plans come up, schedules come up, and the reason I mention all this is because I've only watched the first disc of this and not the second disc. Technically, we've watched the first disc and not the second disc. But what we watched I thought was actually pretty good. It's making progress story-wise. It's ending some story elements that have made it kind of eye-rolly, like we don't care. It's like, this is basically somebody cheat-hacked the universe and it's not fun. And it's not a completely gone thing or anything like that, but it's not super heavily emphasized, I guess. I'm not sure if that's a really great way to put it or not, but basically the story is progressing forward and it's doing stuff, it's revealing things. This one was definitely more entertaining than, I'm not sure about the last one because I can barely remember stuff, but it was entertaining than a lot of some of the recent sets. I definitely want to see more. But of course, that's for us to figure out this weekend if we have the time. Finally, I watched the second volume of Sound Euphonium. I keep wanting to call it Hibiki Euphonium because I think that's a Japanese name, and even though I've never watched it Japanese, I guess I saw it referenced a lot that way. It's continued to be interesting and pleasant and neat. Nothing that excites me a whole lot. But it's a pretty nice watch. I'm trying to think if I can talk about anything that's not too spoilerish. Obviously, I mean, this is something that you probably would have thought of based on the character art design and the look, that it'd be very moe blobbish. But unlike K-On!, which people probably would have had a problem with, this one has more of a direction to it, and it's a pretty nice slice of life. This goes up to episode 10, which I guess means the next one's going to have 3 episodes, and then I guess something else. I'm wondering what they're going to do. Maybe, because I saw there's a summary and there's some one-off things that I think some of the episodes are on these 2 volumes that I need to... Well, maybe I don't need to revisit, but I could revisit. But yeah, it was nice. Well, beyond that, part of the reason I think the anime watching has been a bit more consistent is there was a Team Fortress 2 update last week, and they pretty much completely obliterated the way I play the game, which is I just want to join the server. I don't really care where in the process it is, and they replaced it with something called casual mode, and the air quotes are appropriate because there's nothing casual about it. They've been doing patches to kind of fix it, but from what I've been reading on the Team Fortress subreddit, there's not really a whole lot that, it doesn't really feel like it's bringing back the feel. It still kind of feels like it would be a bit of an investment to try and play Team Fortress. And even if I've sat there and played for 3 hours, my goal has generally just been to just jump in, do something, play around, whatever. Try not to be serious. Especially since when I get serious, I tend to get angry because that fucking spy came out of fucking nowhere, that fucking cheater, or something like that. And who knows, there could be cheaters. I mean, we know there's cheaters out there because that's one of the things Valve really messed up, is because they want to keep people in the game, they removed people's ability to vote kick people, other people. And because you can't kick other people, hackers can just join in and keep having fun, because that stuff's not detected at the moment, or maybe at all. I don't know. Again, it's completely obliterated the way I was playing Team Fortress 2, and it doesn't help that some people in the Team Fortress community are being dumbasses. Like, I can understand people don't like the fact that quick play killed communities, and communities meant something to them, but I'm having flashback nightmares to before quick play existed, and when every single server I joined had an ad, or I could never find any that were running the map I wanted, and people are complaining about that stuff now, and they're just hush-hushing it, trying to pretend that, oh no, that'll be fixed, when that was a problem back then as far as I remember. You could never quite find a server that wasn't full of some sort of bullshit. And so when you get down to it, quick play killed a lot of these communities, that the few that were good and a lot of the bad ones, because it was providing a superior experience for what people were wanting to do. Just drop in, goof off, drop out. And when you get down to it, you can't really compare that to what happened here, because casual mode would have been a nice addition, or maybe even a replacement for a lot of the quick play stuff, you know, if they assumed that like 50% less people were going to be doing quick play because they were going to do casual, then, you know, maybe something like that would make sense. But no, they completely destroyed all of quick play. The menu's still there, but you don't have any Valve servers, and that was the entire point, was that Valve was making sure there were servers that were vanilla Team Fortress that you could just hop into. And communities can't really replace that, because there's always that landmine, and you can spend a lot of time searching for the communities that are good, but the problem still runs into, you probably have more people who would want to be playing on good communities than you actually have good communities. Otherwise, you might as well just settle for one of the 2,000 two-fort maps with instant respawn and all that stuff. You know, people are pointing these out, and yes, some asshole using Dr. McKay from Stargate Atlantis' name, and he's being an asshole like McKay would be, but he's not. He's being a lot dumber than McKay would be, because communities aren't a replacement. Quick play killed communities because it did a better job of giving people what they wanted, and you could call this a kind of a Walmart problem, where it did that, and then the Walmart, aka Valve, got rid of quick play and replaced it with something really shitty. But it doesn't change the fact that there was something there that really fed into Team Fortress being a casual, non-casual game. In other words, even though there's a lot to learn about it, a lot to configure about it, you could really just say, I don't want to think, I'm just going to go into Team Fortress and be an engineer, because even if it's a complicated thing, you just sentry, teleporter moved, sentry, put up, you know, you could just do a lot of that stuff by rote. And it's kind of missing now. And I just don't have the energy to want to do that anymore. So, outside of that, I've maybe mentioned the project of trying to produce these, and you can kind of see there's not much left here, because I finally got down to manually processing Blu-rays with content data. I didn't want to use up the disk space to put onto my private streaming server, so I wanted to watch that stuff. Like it's like Planet Earth and the Blue Planet, maybe 2 BBC collections of things, and Planet Earth came with a couple Natural Planet episodes. One of them was about snow leopards, which was pretty cool. And you know, it's kind of nice to be able to watch that stuff on the go. Although technically I was watching it here, so I could have just put the Blu-ray in, but it's weird stuff. So, you know, I finally got all that stuff processed so that I can just watch that off my streaming server. And now that means DVDs, and DVDs get ripped really fast because I think it's the past couple evenings that this pile has been reduced to this. So, as long as I'm doing that, the only other thing is, I guess, Stardew Valley, which I've been playing a little bit of, but I guess I don't really like time management games. I fall into them really neatly, but I guess I like games which are more process management, which you could think of Minecraft kind of being more that way. So how you use your energy throughout the day is less of a problem in Minecraft. Making sure you do it in a timely manner is still a problem in Minecraft, but usually not that big of a problem because you don't have these limitations that are like micromanaging time during the day, time between days, time throughout the season, or anything like that. It's not necessarily a bad thing about Stardew Valley, but it kind of means that it's not very casual to me because involves me thinking in a way that I guess I don't really care to think about. So I'm wondering if this means that my casual video gaming has reached a stalemate of some sort, or if it means I should go back to Pokemon. Sun and Moon are about to come out, aren't they? I guess if y'all are curious, I have played a tiny bit of Pokemon Go. I'm a level 3, which should let you know that I haven't done pretty much anything at all. I've just caught things that happen to be kind of close by. It's interesting, but I guess I'm not too invested, or I don't know. And it also didn't seem to be able to connect yesterday, and it's maybe not bad, but doesn't feel like my thing. Everything's been exhausting, but at least work's going well, so that's good. Anyways, I've babbled for quite a bit for this video, so y'all have a nice week. Oh, and shout out to JJ Morgan, because I keep forgetting to do it at good timing in the videos. But yeah, y'all have a nice week. JJ Moore, you have a nice week.